Last weekend, my schedule cleared up long enough for me to sit down on a Sunday and watch the IndyCar race at Barber, the Formula 1 Miami Grand Prix, and the NASCAR race at Texas. I was excited for a full day of racing, a little preview of Memorial Day weekend later this month, with all three of the main series I follow racing back to back. However, my excitement quickly evaporated. What I witnessed Sunday was the culmination of a worrying trend that has been taking hold in motorsports throughout the last several years. Auto racing has become painfully boring. One might even say that nothing ever happens anymore. You might think I'm just falling out of love with racing, but that's very much not the case. In this video, I'm going to touch on some reasons why the overall product in all three series has become stale, both on and off track, and I'll explain what I believe is the number one absolute main reason why these three series have lost some luster. With Alex Palou leading the IndyCar field to green, you knew he would be tough to beat. With his strength at a track like Barber, it would probably take a few yellows and some clever strategy to beat the 10 team. But in 2025, cautions have become totally non-existent in IndyCar, with the exception of a lap 1 incident in the opener at St. Pete. At Barber, that trend continued, and Palou raced off into the distance, only handing in the lead during pit cycles. While there were a few battles further back, the race was a processional affair, something that has become way too common for IndyCar dating back to last year. The hybrid system that was haphazardly added to the Spec IndyCar chassis in the middle of last season has totally changed the driving characteristics of a now 13-year-old chassis. The added weight has changed the performance of the tires and forced more aggressive drivers like Pato O'Ward to consistently have to drive smoother. This has also caused some of the rookies and younger drivers to drive conservatively to maintain position rather than maybe step out of line and find the limit, leading to a sharp decline in on-track incidents and cautions and thus a lack of strategy and so forth. Between managing the energy charge and the tires, IndyCar racing has become much more about conservation rather than outright balls to the wall action, which has hurt the product tremendously. IndyCar over the past decade and a half was always the series you could turn to and see great action on any type of track. For all the problems the series had with financials, or adding new races, or a lack of marketing, the actual on-track product was the calling card. For diehard fans of the series, they got something fun and entertaining regardless of how much negativity permeated the talk surrounding IndyCar as a whole. This year we'll have to wait and see how the hybrid system performs in its first Indianapolis 500, but the road and street courses have become more akin to an F1 race than what we've come to expect out of all iterations of the DW12 chassis. There's been a lot of doom and gloom surrounding IndyCar in recent months, like the rumored Honda threat to leave the series, an underwhelming schedule, and a so-so start to life on Fox. If the 2025 Indy 500 is a boring race, panic might have to set in for real amongst leadership and the team owners. When you look at fan interest in the United States, IndyCar is losing out big time in social media metrics and TV ratings to Formula 1. On some weekends this year, F1 races on cable on a Sunday morning beat afternoon IndyCar races on Fox. It turns out that there is still an audience for big-time single-seater racing in America, but many people are tuning into F1 rather than our own homegrown sport. When Liberty Media took over the commercial rights to F1, they were very clear on their vision to turn each event into a big spectacle and turn towards street circuits rather than the traditional European racetracks. People can hate the direction F1 is headed, but they outlined an identity and stuck to it. NASCAR, for as much as I complain about what the Cup Series has turned into, has stuck to their guns. They're going to have gimmicks like the playoffs, the green-white checkered, stuff like that. They're all in on what they want to be. They'll have the identity of the sports entertainment of the racing world. What is IndyCar's identity? What is IndyCar's future? These are questions that don't have a solid answer, and they need to be answered sooner rather than later. Speaking of F1, besides Max Verstappen's defense against the two McLarens in the opening stage of the Miami Grand Prix, nothing else happened. Formula 1 has always been more or less dominated by a driver and car combination, and this year McLaren have nailed it. I love F1, but it always baffles me how much it has grown in the United States. It's never been a sport that should play well with American sports fans. It's still an engineering sport first and foremost. Perhaps with the way NASCAR has devolved into chaos, some fans like myself respect F1 for still being a true championship that rewards excellence rather than punishing it. The racing itself is more or less the same as it's always been. F1 is a slow burn. That's why when you have great races and great championship battles like in 2010, 2012, or 2021, it makes it that much more special instead of when it's manufactured. I guess it just goes to show how much a strong identity and good marketing can do. After Miami ended, I switched over to the NASCAR race and saw a caution-filled final stage. While easily the most exciting race of the day, that wasn't exactly a high bar to clear, and the excitement was more about the abundance of late race restarts than actual good racing. With the combination of the next-gen car, which functions totally different than any stock car in history, and a weird track like Texas, you knew you were going to see some funky things. The next-gen has not taken well to Texas's bumps in turns 3 and 4, and that caused a lot of the chaos that shook up the running order and left Michael McDowell in the lead late, until he was passed by Joey Logano. McDowell then got loose and overcorrected off turn 2 the following lap while trying to continue the fight. The chaotic nature of the race did just enough to generate some interest, but it's not a good product overall. The 4 preceding races at Martinsville, Darlington, Bristol, and Talladega were notable for how boring they were, when those 4 tracks are the bread and butter of NASCAR, and more often than not have put on a good show throughout history in any generation of car prior to the next gen. NASCAR still gets TV ratings that dwarf F1 and IndyCar in the US, but it's frustrating because many fans I've read stuff from know how much better NASCAR can be. In my opinion, the next-gen car itself is the problem more so than any specific track. Outside of Kansas, the car produces poor racing. It's underpowered and too dependent on underside downforce, which is why at single-groove racetracks a slower car can hold off a quicker one for a lot longer than in previous eras of car. But what I truly believe is causing the problem in all 3 of these series is the goal from the organizers to try to bunch up the field by making everyone run the same equipment, or a spec series so to speak. The thought is, by making everyone more equal in equipment, they'll be physically closer on track, and in turn creating more exciting racing. But it never works out that way. Now F1 is not a spec series, but design concepts the leading teams employ start trickling their way down the grid, and over time, design philosophy converges on a single concept until they change the rules again. If you look at lap times in practice or in Q1 or Q2, the F1 field is as close as it's ever been. And then you see the race on Sunday, and the front car takes off from the field, and everyone more or less gets stuck in a constant DRS train. Now with the cost cap involved, a team like Ferrari, who is clearly behind, cannot catch up mid-season without a technical directive being handed down by the FIA. IndyCar is essentially spec aside from the suspension and dampers, as both Chevy and Honda are competitive with each other in the engine department. NASCAR with the next-gen car makes teams buy parts from third-party suppliers instead of fabricating the car themselves like has been the case throughout stock car history. This desire to see the field comprised of equal machinery makes it hard for teams that have an advantage to be caught, and it makes things difficult for a team to claw positions back if they hit trouble early on in a race. The next-gen car brought parity when no one understood it, but with 3 years of data, only Hendrick, Gibbs, and Penske have won this year. And yes, Josh Berry's 21 car is prepared by Team Penske. Add on top of that, the cars are overly engineered. They're so reliable compared to past eras that you don't have to worry about your favorite driver blowing an engine while leading as much as you did in the past. Sure, those things can still happen, like Josh Berry spinning out of the lead at Texas, but they've become rarer. It used to be an experiment in survival to get an F1 car to the end of the race, or to get an IndyCar or NASCAR stock car to last a big 500-mile oval race. There's so much data available to teams now. Like Denny Hamlin said, having SMT data available to everyone has made every NASCAR team run the same setup, and every driver have to adjust their driving style to be the same as everyone else's. Engineering talent is simply too good for big-time auto racing these days. Now that would be great news if every series didn't commit themselves to spec cars. Nowadays, more than ever, winning a race is solely about maintaining track position. That has always been very important, but now it is vital. Michael McDowell almost won that race on Sunday by being up front due to a strategy call and having good launches on each late restart to take the lead. In the F1 race, Verstappen tried desperately to keep the lead in case the rain came, as that was the only chance he had to fend off the McLarens. It feels as though teams are less willing to take risks that might backfire because they know if they fall behind the 8-ball track position-wise, they're never getting those spots back. Perhaps I'm just rambling, but I think the big series have committed a grave mistake by embracing the idea of equality in equipment through the field. All you have to do is look at how NASCAR and IndyCar have struggled to find new OEMs, while endurance racing has no shortage of OEMs wanting to enter. Sure, IMSA might have a balance of performance, but the OEMs are free to design what they want, and that's why it's attractive to them. You would get more eyeballs on your brand to start an F1 or NASCAR program, but you'd be paying a lot more money to run less road-relevant technology and finish 18th. Overall, I think the reason racing has become boring is because the cars are too similar and they converge on all the same strengths and weaknesses. For example, in NASCAR back in the day, some teams would be stronger on restrictor plate races, and some would be stronger on the flat tracks like Loudon or Phoenix. Now the same teams are up front everywhere, and it's the same case in IndyCar and F1. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.